Hello, my name is Josh Butler. I am a pastor here in Redemption Church in Tempe, Arizona, and it's awesome to be with you. I want to thank Manushka for inviting me, and thank you to you, Berean Church, for allowing me to be with you here. I want us today to look at a passage in John 16. So let's jump on in. All right, John 16, beginning in verse 16, Jesus says this. He says, "A little while, and you will see me no longer, and again a little while, and you will see me." Now pay attention to that phrase, a little while. It's going to show up a lot in this passage. He goes on. So some of his disciples said to one another, "What is this that he says to us, a little while, and you will not see me, and again a little while, and you will see me, and because I'm going to the Father?" So they were saying, "What does he mean by a little while? We do not know what he is talking about." Jesus knew they wanted to ask him, so he said to them, "Is this what you're asking yourselves, what I meant by saying a little while, and again, and you will not see me, and again a little while, and you will see me? Truly, truly, I say to you, you will weep and lament, but the world will rejoice. You will be sorrowful, but your sorrow will turn into joy." And he's going to use an analogy here. He goes into an analogy about birth. He says, when a woman is giving birth, she has sorrow because her hour has come. But when she has delivered the baby, she no longer remembers the anguish for joy that a human being has been born into the world. So also, you have sorrow now, but I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take your joy from you. Okay, well, Jesus here, he is preparing his disciples for his death. In context here, he's getting ready to go to the cross, and he's preparing disciples for that. And I believe, though, he's giving them wisdom in how to find joy and peace in the midst of troubled times. You know, I've got a book with hundreds of Bible promises in it, right? It's called The Promises of God, and there are promises in there to bless and prosper and comfort and deliver and save. But there's one promise that they missed. It's the promise Jesus says here in verse 33 that in this world you will have tribulation. Jesus made that promise, and I've yet to see it fail. Like, man, there are troubled times that are going to come. But how can we find peace in troubled times, right? Jesus says here, you got some immediate troubled times that are coming. I'm going to be away for a little while, but then a little while later you're going to see me. But here's the thing, it didn't feel like a little while when the disciples were going through it. I can imagine those 3 days must have felt like eternity. And what do we do when a little while feels unending? When the troubled times that we're in feel so difficult and huge? Well, Jesus' death, you know, it's interesting. I found actually they've done studies that time moves slower when you're stressed or depressed. That a little while can feel like forever when you're in it. All right? So for example, if you show people a short film and you ask them how long it was, depressed people estimate longer. You know, there's a classic phrase, time flies when you're having fun. But the opposite is also true. The more the world is really difficult and hard and all that, the slower it seems to go. And we know this is true. Things slow down when you're in the hospital room and you're crying out the waiting room, "God, why aren't you fixing this?" Or if you're single and maybe don't want to be, and you might be praying like, "God, I thought I'd be married by now." Or when another national tragedy hits and you think, "Man, I know that you have the whole world in your hands, Lord, but it doesn't seem so right now." Like the disciples, you and I, we could be telling Jesus, "Man, you said a little while, but what did you mean by a little while?" Because we must be using different measuring systems because this is feeling like forever, right? But you can find peace when you know that joy is coming. So Jesus tells his disciples, hey, here's where you can find peace. He says, your sorrow will turn into joy. In verse 20 here, your sorrow will turn into joy. And he compares what they're about to endure to childbirth. He says, you know, when a woman is giving birth, she has sorrow because her hour has come. But when she's delivered the baby, she no longer remembers the anguish for joy that a human being has been born into the world. And so we say, man, you disciples, you are going to be like a woman who's giving birth, that their pain will be real, he's saying. But it's not the end of the story. Because when they encounter Jesus alive on the other side, they will be overjoyed. It's an interesting image, the resurrection and birth, right? Similarly, the New Testament uses birth as an image for Jesus' resurrection. That he is the firstborn from among the dead, Colossians 1 tells us. Acts 2 says that God loosed him from the birth pangs of death. And so Jesus' resurrection, it's like a picture of new birth, the beginning of new creation. And he's saying that joy can carry you through when you're in the middle of hard times. You know, I knew my wife, Holly, was strong, but I didn't realize how strong until she gave birth to our first child. And I was thinking of this passage today here because this month is my daughter's birthday. And my wife, she went into labor with my daughter on September 8th, 2009. And I, being the mathematical genius that I am, I realized, hey, Holly, if you could just hold her in there one day longer, she's going to have this awesome birthday of 999, right? Like, what's a birthday like 999? Now, I shared this amazing idea with her, but my wife, let's say, did not share my enthusiasm, right? Like, she wanted that baby out now. And so, yeah, no, it was painful. The birth was painful. Yet, when our little girl arrived, we were filled with joy. A joy so great that her pain seemed like a distant memory. Jesus says here similarly that his resurrection brings a joy that's so great that we will no longer remember the anguish from before. Now, I don't think Jesus is saying that we'll forget, like our memories of things will be wiped clean or whatever, right? But I think rather he's saying that our memories will be transformed. They will be overwhelmed by joy. That you and I, we will be like laughing mothers recounting the birth stories that were once so painful. You see, peace doesn't come when you pretend that what you're enduring isn't hard, but rather when you compare it with the age to come. Your future joy, the joy that Jesus is bringing, it will exceed your present sorrow. And so when a little while feels long, I want to encourage you to lift your eyes and look forward towards resurrection. This also means that, you and I, we have a pregnant faith, not a birth faith, so to speak, right? We have a pregnant faith in the sense that we're still waiting for the full delivery to come. Jesus wants his disciples to know that peace is found in him. Again, in verse 3, he says, you're going to face tribulation, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. You can find peace in Christ in the midst of hard times. And he's not only talking here about the 3 days between his death and resurrection, he uses other language in this same passage that's referring to the 2,000 years between then and now, which means that you and I, we are in this, quote unquote, a little while too. We are in this time, this space that Jesus talked about where it's hard, we're enduring tribulation and all, yet we can take heart because he has overcome the world and his joy is coming. This means that we're still awaiting resurrection. You and I, we're in the womb of the old world waiting to be born. Romans 8, the Apostle Paul observes that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth, with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. Similarly, we look ahead through the veil, and it's like we're in the womb of the old world, and we look ahead through the veil, and we see Jesus, our older brother, has emerged before us out of the womb of the old world and into the light of new creation. We can take joy and take heart in his victory and what it means for our future. To kind of wrap up and land the plane here, I think of my friends Jake and Lexi, who this year have had a year of great trials this last year. Lexi's water broke at 22 weeks, which is really early. Their son Asher was born 6 weeks later at 2.5 pounds. And they were told he wouldn't survive, that he would need surgery to close a hole in his heart, that he needed a tracheostomy to cut a hole in his neck. The doctors gave interventions to help prevent blindness, and they gave him a breathing machine to keep him alive. This family lived in the hospital for nearly a year. And it felt like forever. But Jake told me he's found peace for one reason. He knows joy is coming. Here's what he told me. I actually want to read something that he wrote and all that I found really powerful, partly based on this passage. He said this. He says, will my ultimate joy come in this life, or will it come in the next? What do I really believe? Is my hope only that things will get better? Or is my hope that one day I'll watch King Jesus tear down this hospital brick by brick because we won't need hospitals ever again? He goes on, I know I will hold my son, whether now or in the resurrection. I will see my child longer than I've cried for him. I will stand and hug Asher as we laugh about how there used to be a day when we worried it all, as we see Satan, sin, sickness, and death become nothing but a footstool for the King as he wipes away our tears. And what he's taking confidence in here, and what you and I can take confidence, is that Jesus is bringing a life-giving joy that's bigger than our earthly trials. His coming healing, it will be so deep, so powerful that even these momentary troubles, they'll be overwhelmed and transformed with an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. It's quoting 2 Corinthians 4 there. And so for you and I want to encourage you that when a little while feels long, when the troubled times you're going in feels like they're going on forever, you can find peace in the resurrection joy and the confidence in knowing that it's coming. Would you join me in prayer? Jesus, thank you, our victorious King, that you have overcome the world. You are, God, the firstborn of the new creation. And so we look to you still in the midst of the birth pangs and the trembling and the tribulation of the old world, God, that we are in the womb of the old world, but we see you who has gone before. And so, God, I want to pray for any of those right now who are enduring difficult, troubled times, God, that you would grant them your peace, that we want to look up to you and look forward to your kingdom coming in fullness, God, and take confidence that the joy that you bring is bigger than anything the enemy can throw at us on this side of eternity, God. And so we love you, we worship you, we place our confidence in you, Jesus. You are our peace, you are our joy. Amen. Thanks again so much for letting me be with you. It's been an honor.